All right, 24.1 has been announced.
It's a fun one, at least looks fun on paper. Let's go over it. So 24.1 is 21 dumbbell snatches on arm 1, 21 burpees over the dumbbell, 21 dumbbell snatches on arm 2, and then 21 burpees over the dumbbell again. Then the reps go down to 15, 15, 15, 15 of that same pattern, then 9, 9, 9, and 9 with the same pattern. There's our workout for this weekend. Two moves, 15-minute cap. Once you finish the 9, your workout is complete. Otherwise, you're working for 15 minutes.
Jeff Adler just threw down a 7-minute something.
I think it was 6:10.
Yeah, and there's been 6-minute workouts in there posted already. So those are the pros, and they do this at a different speed than the rest of us. But let's look at the standards of these movements so you're familiar with what's happening here. Okay, so as we're looking here, right, we want to, for one, be over that dumbbell. So feet over, but from a side profile, right? It could be sideways, it could be front to back. When we're doing the snatch, it's all on one arm. Locked out overhead. Arms long, legs long. So some of the technique things, right, is that little snatch right there. So you use a little more leg action, right? If it feels really light, you might end up muscle snatching it, and it's just standing straight up, right? That's a little more back. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second, and that will get you through, right, 90 of those reps, 45 on each arm. Then we go into the burpees. So we're off to the side, right? And you look at where your feet are. As you hit the deck, you got to get chest and thighs to the floor. As I come up, I'm going to get my feet next to the dumbbell to jump over, right? Notice how when he jumped over, it wasn't 2 feet at the same time. As long as both of your feet are in the air like that, that is okay. Totally okay. Whatever's allowing you to keep moving is really the style you want to stick with. Maybe stepping up at first, stepping back, stepping up is a little more reasonable. But we'll talk about strategies about that here in a second. So looking at the standards, and between those dumbbell snatches and between the burpees, it's just 2 moves. It's not fancy. So what are some of the things that you want them to think about as they approach this workout?
The first thing that I think about that you have the most control over in variance from rep to rep is your dumbbell snatch. And something that I'm talking about here is picking your sets, right? 21 is not a small number, especially we're used to alternating arms, so each arm gets a share. If you were to do 20 reps, that would be 10 on each arm. Now it's 21 all on one arm. So pick your sets. If you're still comfortable doing 21 unbroken, that is fine, stick with that. If you're like, man, I gotta think of a different game plan, think sevens, think something that descends. What's a descend for 21?
876.
876 goes down, something like that,
Yeah.
right? Those are options for the 21s. And then same thing with 15s. If you've ever done a 21-15-9 workout, you know the 15 round is infamous for being that gut check, for being that hard round, that middle round that feels real bad when
A lot of questions
are asked on the round of 15s, right?
Yeah.
So that's something where you still gotta hang on to those sets. You still gotta be smart. Maybe like an 8-7, maybe 5s, something like that. Maybe a 6-5-4. We talked about that on Wednesday with some sets with our 15s.
654 is good.
Right? Then you come to 9s, and that might be the chance to go unbroken if you get there, right? Unbroken
left.
Or 2 sets, right? 5-4, 6-3, something like that, where you know, because it's a small number, single digits. Pick your sets. Be smart with your sets. Don't bite off more than you can chew. right? Get that dumbbell moving. And when you are gonna rest, take those rests short, like counting your head 10 seconds, counting your head 5 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever that is, so that you can get back to work and stay moving through this whole thing.
And with that, that's why I think, and this especially with the dumbbell, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It does no real extra benefit to you to try to forcefully pull that dumbbell up overhead quicker necessarily, because you still got to return it back to the floor with that same arm. So if you can think more methodical as you go through those dumbbells and give yourself that chance to breathe with it up top especially, and keeping that head up as you're reaching towards the floor, that's going to really keep you from taking a rest when you have to versus taking a rest when you want to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the other keys?
A movement keys is that we're looking for that's going to help you kind of avoid tightening up in certain places. For the dumbbell snatch, one that I do is that I'm bending with the legs here. I'm reaching down, keeping my chest up like you just said, right? That I can breathe and push with the legs rather than bending over a ton for that dumbbell snatch and hinging a bunch. I'm trying to save that lower back and use more of the legs, especially with burpees. That's a popular move that also can tax the lower back, so be careful with that. And same thing
Bending
with
over dumbbell, bending over burpees.
right. And one that you're going to talk about with the burpee is right, looking where your feet are, and that's a movement key, is that you gotta make sure that you've got dialed in steps, dialed in jumps on those burpees as well.
Exactly. So thinking about that with the burpees especially, as you prepare your dumbbell for going on this, chalk the floor. Chalk the floor with your hands. Get your hands, some chalk on them, and chalk where your hands go. And let's say you're not as flexible and your feet don't jump up as far. Well, then put your hands in a place that when your feet do jump up, wherever they are, it's even with the dumbbell. So there's no extra stepping forward or backward to line your feet up to make that side jump to complete your burpee rep.
Let's show them what that looks like here.
Right. So if you're looking here, right, and let's say his hands hit the deck, right, and his feet come up, we want to make sure that, see how his feet are back there and then he has to jump over? Imagine doing that 90 times. He's taking 90 extra steps versus if his hands are more forward, now his feet are right in line with the dumbbell and he's right able to jump over. So if he would have chalked somewhere on the floor,
say my hands are right here, that's
right,
right.
Then he just aims to put his hands in the chalk every time. That's what you want to do, is you want to chalk that spot as you get ready. And obviously do a couple burpees before you get going, so you know that chalk's in the right spot, so you know your feet are going to be in the right spot. What about gear?
Oh man, gear. If you find knee pain or just knee soreness for burpees, hitting the ground over and over again, knee sleeves aren't a bad idea. For dumbbell snatches, if you are going to do that kind of squat move, right, that might be a knee sleeve option. One that I'm going to do is I'm taping my fingers, taping my hands, right, my thumbs
that dumbbell
specifically, right. That's a lot of reps, and as it's coming down, I'm going to tape. We were talking like maybe tape just all the fingers, right? Do what you need to do, protect your hands.
You can't wear grips.
No grips allowed.
You can't wear gymnastic grips or anything like that. Gloves and stuff. Can't have that. So tape is allowed.
Tape is allowed. So that's what I'm going to do. Especially since burpees, I don't need to fidget with tape because I'm not jumping on a bar or anything. I'm not grabbing a bar.
Yep.
Don't have to worry about this. Hands on the ground, right? So I'm going to think like tape on my hands. Maybe knee sleeves is an option. Wrist wraps if you're a sensitive wrist athlete, right? Coming down on the burpee, and as well as overhead, right? Keeping in mind that we're overhead and controlling that wrist. That's another one. I've talked to a couple athletes that I wear sweatbands, right? Wrist sweatbands, so that my hands don't get as sweaty. That eliminates at least a couple chalks in there, right? I chalk less, and then I can keep moving more, which is a good strategy for an open workout like this.
For sure. So the question that you might be thinking of is, should you scale or RX this? And we went through everyone that comes to class, and this might be the scenario where no one needs to do foundations for this workout because of everyone's ability to pick some weight on the dumbbell and really realistically complete that burpee where you're hopping over.
Right.
And we'll draw that out more when we meet before Friday Night Lights, of course. But really, the Scaling RX is what your ability is to handle the weight of the dumbbell, either 50 for guys or 35 for ladies, right? is you being able to complete that rep. And hard is okay.
Yeah.
For it to be hard is okay, and to grind through as many as you can is absolutely okay. Because then the scaled is usually in the 35,
35 and
20.
20. So 20 for ladies, 35 for men.
Right. And that's even in with the masters too. So if you're looking and able to handle a 20-pound dumbbell or a 35-pound dumbbell for guys as a minimum, then you're absolutely able to either RX or scale. Now the difference just being is, can you handle, if you're thinking about RX, and can you handle the 50 or the 35? And then for the masters or teenage athletes, can you handle a 35 or a 20? Because really everyone is going to be able to do the burpee.
Yep.
Slow, fast, medium speed, whatever it is. Yeah, it's really the safety that you can handle that dumbbell is going to determine that. And you can easily see that within a few reps, and talk with your coach, of course, to make sure that final call is appropriate for you.
100%. 100%. I think that's all the tips I have.
Yeah, so don't forget, after Friday Night Lights, we'll be meeting at Biggs for, community bonding. So that's always fun. And if you're available, we would love to see you there, of course. And outside of that, we'll see you on the leaderboard. Woo, woo.